bizarre story in Saskatchewan has stunned that province.
Car 36 responding.
The body was found in the garage of Wilson's fashionable Regina home last night around supper time.
Had a number of people in as witnesses, but no actual suspects.
Until this week, Colin Thatcher had been Saskatchewan's Minister of Energy, but he suddenly resigned from the cabinet. Tonight, they're looking for her killer. It's one of the most sensational murder cases Saskatchewan has ever seen.
Hello, and welcome to Canadian Politics' Murder. This is the third and final part of the story of Colin Thatcher and JoAnn, his wife, who was murdered. And we're still trying to work out who did it.
You should have said spoilers.
Spoilers. Oh, yeah, spoilers. If you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2, you really need to go back because you don't know. Yeah, you're going to be missing out.
So my name is Jesse. This is Reese. Normally, this is Canadian Politics is Boring. Reese is a Welsh immigrant who likes Canadian politics, and I am a apathetic Canadian who does not like politics. And Reese, for 3 years, has found it very funny and amusing to himself to teach me about my own country's politics, which I still don't care about. This is a small, sort of veering off course, tiny little promotional 3-parter where we talk about murder. It's been fun. Reese, how about you give a recap for our listeners who have listened to episodes 1 and 2, but haven't just listened to them 3 minutes ago?
So Colin Thatcher, prominent politician in Saskatchewan, separated from his wife, very abusive to her and his girlfriend. His wife was mysteriously shot in an unsolved crime, and then his wife was also mysteriously murdered.
Don't forget he kidnapped his kids.
And he kidnapped his kids from her too, and then kidnapped them after she died. So, we're now...
Oh yeah, and the person who was seen at the scene
a government car. They tracked down a government car.
And the person who was seen leaving with what seemed to be a gun or a weapon tucked in his coat from the crime scene had a beard and olive skin and was coming from a government-issued car, which was later, after the murder, showed back up at the house, which is weird and kind of stupid for the criminal, I think. Go back to the scene of the crime in the same vehicle. It's just dumb.
So, February the 24th.
I still don't think it's Colin. I don't think Colin's the one who did it.
Somebody called Anthony Wilson signed a sworn affidavit with the police on February the 24th, 1983, that progressive conservative MLA Colin Thatcher orchestrated the death of his former wife, JoAnn Wilson.
Interesting.
And so, although there was no evidence, this person came forward saying that they were convinced. They were willing to sign a piece of paper, legally binding document, to say that that's what they believed.
Interesting.
However, at the same time, police in Regina and Vancouver were investigating the mysterious delivery of red roses and a card to the Moose Jaw home of progressive conservative MLA Colin Thatcher a day after the funeral of his wife JoAnn. The order for 7 roses was placed on January the 26th in Vancouver. Though the cryptic message may not have contained any veiled threats, it did trigger an alarm, and Thatcher received 7 red roses at his Palm Springs condominium shortly after.
It didn't say but who it was from?
No. So somebody was sending Colin Thatcher red roses to his home.
And this was taken as a threat?
I don't know.
After the death of his wife.
After the death of his wife, somebody sent some flowers. Yeah.
I mean, I don't see that as that's weak. That's not a. How could that be a threat? Like a mob thing?
I don't know.
7 red roses.
So the lead with a government car.
Hold on, that doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
Why would that just be automatically assumed to be a threat?
I don't know. Maybe they were. I don't know, vibrating or something. I don't know. So eventually, because of that car, the police eventually catch up with somebody called Gary Anderson.
The car was registered under?
Well, they've linked the car to somebody called Gary Anderson. This is June, July 1983. And Anderson consults his lawyers and decides he must offer his cooperation with the police.
Okay.
So Gary Anderson, in February 1984, then hands over a written statement to the Regina police outlining his involvement in the murder investigation of JoAnn Wilson. Included in his statement are details of the involvement of Colin Thatcher, somebody called Charlie Wilde and Cody Crusher on the plot to kill JoAnn Wilson.
Jesus.
Part of the deal involves Anderson's immunity from prosecution in matters related to the murder. So basically, he was like,
I'll rat on everybody as long as I don't go to jail. All right.
Anderson said he offered his cooperation because it was the right thing to do, and he was afraid of going to jail.
I'm not afraid of going to jail as long as I have immunity from going to jail.
So on May the 1st, 1984, confident that the police did not suspect him. So what the police did was they got...
did not suspect who? Sorry.
Colin Thatcher didn't think the police suspected him.
Until this happened. Yeah.
Until this happened, but he didn't know that this person had come forward.
Right.
This wasn't public. So they put a wire on him.
Wire on who?
On Gary Anderson, the person who kind of was cooperating with the police.
Oh,
for
so
immunity.
Gary told the police that Colin orchestrated like a plot
to kill his ex-wife.
But that wasn't enough. They needed proof from Colin.
They didn't have any evidence apart from Jerry's word at this moment. So
which isn't,
to take it to trial, they needed more.
They need more, yeah. Okay.
So with a wire on,
that's fascinating.
They orchestrated a conversation with Colin Thatcher.
Hey, Colin, remember your wife who we murdered?
And Colin told...
Do you want to sit down with a beer and just go over that again?
And Colin told...
Good times.
Colin told Anderson in a conversation secretly recorded by the police that there were no loose ends.
Who said what to who?
Colin Thatcher said to Gary Anderson that there were no loose ends regarding the murder because he believed he got away with it.
He actually said that. All right.
Yeah, on a wire for the police.
Wow.
Thatcher was formally charged on May the 7th, 1984 after a very long police investigation. He was charged with first-degree murder of JoAnn Wilson, and he'll appear in court this morning and was reprimanded in custody pending a bail hearing. He elected trial by judge and jury. Police would not give details except to say he was arrested by Regina and Moose Jaw City Police detectives before 8 a.m.
So...
He was eventually then... the guilty verdict. He was convicted of first-degree murder.
But he didn't do it. He's not the one who pulled the trigger.
No, but he orchestrated it. He planned it all.
Did they get who did it?
Well, they had all of those other people too. The whole gang, apart from the
so
one.
They didn't say that. Okay. They got everybody.
Yeah, they got everybody. But Thatcher in particular was given the guilty verdict, and it was at the time it was kind of like it.
I'm curious if you get in a situation like that, would the person who orchestrates it get more jail time or a more severe sentence, I should say, than the person who pulled the trigger?
Are you a lawyer? Send us a speak pipe. Explain it. But, they all got done apart from the one who ratted them out.
Wow. How many were there?
There were 3 of them in total. So
okay.
and the trial.
Why would you need 3 people for this? That's weird, right?
I don't know, but I imagine they probably planned it all out together.
Do you have the plot? Do you have the information?
No. I think it's probably in some court transcript somewhere, but I didn't.
That'd be fascinating to know.
I still think I found a lot of detail. I can't find you every... I didn't turn every stone, Jesse.
Just assume you'd always know these things.
Exactly.
But that's what I'd be interested in hearing is like why he wanted to kill his wife, why he felt it necessary to involve 2 other people, how the fuck he managed to convince 2 other people to go along in a 3-person murder, plot. That's a lot of work, man. And they got away with it for a long time. Like, that's crazy. But seriously, like, you want to kill your wife, the first thing you
is this
think
your
of
advice?
No, I'm saying, well, I guess, like,
Dear Jesse,
don't go to
it's like an advice
don't go to
column.
like a group of people talking about it. That's insane. That like, hold on,
or just don't kill your wife.
Well, yeah, no, but okay, no, I'm talking about just yes, do not kill your wife. Let's have that as a blanket, like, just a good advice overall. But as far as this is concerned, it's a little mind-boggling to me that, like, it's got to be the first 2 people he talked to. He's like, hey, I really want to kill my wife. Do you want to get in on this with me? And they both said yes. Or he talked to other people who said no and kept it a secret. Like, that's mind-blowing. Seriously, think about this for a second.
I mean, it's...
If you came to me, like, Jesse, I really want to kill my wife and I want you to help me. And, like, I wouldn't say yes. And then I wouldn't just keep it to myself that you've read this to me. And I'm like, he went to two separate people because he thought one other person wasn't enough.
I imagine he just hung out with people. He just hang out with a crowd of people where they would do shit like that, or probably cover up for him when he beat women and stuff.
I guess, right? Like
it's kind of like just the worst kind of bros.
Jesus, it's just mind blowing.
This trial caught the attention of like the whole province, and it was on TV, and they managed to. He got sent to prison. He was sent to.
Who was the person that pulled the trigger, by the way?
I actually didn't find that in the article, but Colin he got 25. He got 25 years. He got life in prison.
Okay,
but that's not the end of the story.
All right. Really?
No. So I found a journalist who came to visit Colin Thatcher in prison and wrote a little article about it. So he said, the first thing that strikes you is his lean physical appearance. He's much thinner than you remember, but not the emaciated physique of a sickly man. Rather, after serving what is now almost 5 years of a life sentence of murder, Colin Thatcher is a remarkable, trim, almost athletic look. He's wearing a blue jeans and balanced high-top running shoes. I love how that he's a convicted murderer and they're like, this season.
He's not wearing prison clothing.
He's still the same brash as brass.
Did you wear jeans and running shoes in prison?
Apparently,
okay.
Yeah. He's still the same brash, self-assured person in his own way that once dominated politics in Saskatchewan. The years behind bars have not yet penetrated that tough exterior of a man who publicly always protected what many believe was the vulnerable person within. Life in prison for Thatcher has been a ritual of routine. He says his small cell contains a colour TV, a stereo, and a $5,000 computer word processor. So he was writing books, essentially, when he was in prison.
Wow.
Within the hierarchy of prison life...
$5,000
word processor.
This is in the 80s.
In the 80s.
Yeah, right, okay.
It's the size of a car.
Yeah.
Anyway, within the hierarchy of prison life, Thatcher refers to himself as a neutral. He makes it his business not to know what's going on and such, and is able to avoid being caught in the feuds between inmates. In fact, he says that he owes part of his status within the population to someone he describes as an underworld figure from Quebec who is serving time in the penitentiary. Not long after he arrived, Thatcher said he took his place at the rear of the line in the prison cafeteria. Unexpectedly, a small man who was near the top of the inmate social strata came up to Thatcher and led him to the front of the line as others stepped aside. It was a gesture that Thatcher says sent a signal to the others that gave him a measure of acceptance in the population.
Aww.
So he's in prison.
That's sweet.
You know, exactly. So, this was the 80s. Fast forward, November the 30th, 2006, Thatcher was granted full parole.
So how long was he in prison for?
When did he go in?
Still
1984.
So that's over 20 years.
It's over 20 years. Yeah.
So of a 25-year parole.
Yeah.
He got 22 years.
Yes. Because he was on good behavior. Because he was a neutral.
All right.
He remarried in 2010. Convinced someone to remarry him.
Being in his 60s or 70s.
Yeah, he's old. He wrote a 440-page book about his case, Final Appeal, The Anatomy of a Frame, which was basically like
I didn't do it. But he eventually had to agree that all profits should go to charities that deal with domestic violence. Who did he have to agree to?
Well, because everyone said, like, you wrote a book, you murdered your wife, you're convicted, you served your time, now you've written a book about it, and now you're going to make profit on a book.
Yeah, but who did he have to? He didn't have to agree to anybody. He could be like, "Fuck you, you're buying it," right? If they're buying his book,
publisher of his book, essentially.
Get a new fucking publisher. Don't get me wrong; he's an asshole and doesn't deserve.
And also
it,
the Ministry of Justice.
But
the Ministry of Justice was still involved. There's kind of rules to.
No, well, okay, hold on.
He lost his freedom, Jesse, because he killed someone.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, didn't he serve his time? He's free from prison now.
He did, yeah, but you can't go back and like this social decency.
I could write a book saying I'm a fucking unicorn if I wanted.
But nobody died.
Okay. Are there laws against what books you can and cannot publish? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but I don't know.
I don't know, but maybe there was pressure on him.
I think this is interesting. Right? Like, I don't think it was a law. That
there's not a law, but maybe they were like, the publisher was like, listen, if you want to publish any more books in Saskatchewan, we're gonna have to do this.
He'd have to. All of his profits went to charity.
Yeah. So he handed over eventually $13,000. So
that's all he made.
Yeah.
Oh,
however,
fucking never mind. Like, who cares?
So Colin Thatcher is this happened last year, October the 27th, 2022. Colin Thatcher was 84. He's still alive. 84 years old.
Okay.
So what has happened now, the progressive conservatives in Saskatchewan, not all of them, but one of the member of the legislature called Lyle Stewart is really good friends with him and has now started inviting him to the legislature.
Okay.
So he's kind of
Who
like...
is Lyle Stewart again?
He's a member, like a MLA in Saskatchewan. So this was they were kicking off their fall legislative session, which was a tough on crime speech, basically launching their tough on crime speech.
And then, like in the middle of the speech, they brought up Colin and just beat the shit out of him.
No,
so.
And so they presented a former cabinet minister, turned notorious convicted murderer was the guest. So like, hey, we're tough on crime. Look what we brought.
Okay, that's weird.
So basically Lyle said, Colin was a long-time MLA and he's a constituent of mine and a friend of mine, and that's why I invited him, and I'm happy that I did. And he said that he hopes to invite him to more, and he already had invited him to some. If anyone has a right to be here, it's Colin Thatcher.
Okay,
I'd rather his wife be there.
Yeah, right.
You know,
yeah, seriously.
And he added that Thatcher is a fine individual, that he's had a tough life because of his time in prison. Poor Colin.
Poor Colin.
Poor Colin.
Oh, man.
Tiny violin for Colin. And they basically said...
Was Lyle far right, I'm guessing?
I don't know, but I mean, if you're okay with someone who's notorious for domestic violence and murder of their partner, and he's a fine person, no one deserves to be here more. It kind of undermines... And also the Minister of Corrections and Policing... a woman called Christine Towell.
I don't know. Like I'm
said they weren't concerned about having him there. The crime speech.
I'm of the mind that it's rare, but people can change. People can grow.
Oh, he hasn't
People can
murdered any
learn.
women since.
No, but like if he had written a book and the book was all about his guilt and his redemption and trying to be a better person, that's one thing. But he wrote a book saying, I didn't fucking do it. Yeah,
exactly. And then the opposition NDP leader, Carla Beck, at the time basically said that the event was stunning, and she meant that in a negative way.
Right.
I would say that the decisions made by the stunning lack of self-awareness by this government today won't go unnoticed by Saskatchewan people, I'm sure. So there we go. He's still alive and kicking. He's now being used as a prop by the modern Conservative Party. And still did all that stuff in the 80s. That was pretty horrible. So this is the end of Canadian politics is murder.
That was a great 3-parter, Reese. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you very much.
No, that was great. Let's do more of these. That was really...
I found a lot of detail.
You did, but it kept my attention, which is rare for me. Let's face it.
And mine. This is rare for me.
Thank you so much for listening and sticking us in your ear holes all snug in there. Please join us again for our regularly scheduled program, Canadian Politics is Boring, where I am forced to listen about my own country's fucking politics.
Yeah.
If you want to support us, there are several ways you can do it. You can leave a review, which really helps. Honestly, we're going through a promotional period right now with this 3-parter, and any kind of positive reviews helps. Any kind of negative reviews, we laugh and we turn them into a t-shirt and you sell them for profit.
So go to CanadianPoliticsIsBoring.com. You can support us. Let us know what you think. And if you like this, maybe we'll do some more Canadian Politics is Murder in the future too.
Yeah, let us know. Send us an email at CanadianPoliticsIsBoring@gmail.com, or you can send us a speak pipe, which is like an anonymous voicemail that you don't have to sign up for or anything. You can leave it within seconds. Speakpipe.com/CanadianPoliticsIsBoring, and Patreon. If you really love this shit and you just can't get enough of us, we have so much more extra content over there for really kind of cheap.
Cool.
So
okay.
That's it. Thank you
very
so much, guys. Reese is raring to go because he's got the studio booked.
Woo!
And
bye, everyone.
He's really happy that he really wants to get out of the studio. Look at him. He's closing his laptop.
Bye.
Right? Okay. Bye.